Hello and welcome to another episode of Startup Hustle Middle East. Today we have Niki Mukhi here. He is the founder of Brapp. Now, Brapp is a very interesting app. You can find it on the App Store right now. It's kind of like a social media for musicians. And what's really interesting about it is that musicians can actually collaborate on the app. So, for example, somebody can make the beat and somebody else can play a guitar riff to it. And it's a very collaborative experience. I met Niki about a few weeks ago, and when I saw the app, I was really impressed. So I definitely wanted to find out about his journey and share it with you guys. Unfortunately, Mamta can't be here for this episode, so it's just going to be me and Niki. All right, man. So can you tell us a little bit about how you decided to start Brapp and a little bit about your background? I know you're a musician. He's a professional musician, guys. So a little bit about how you got into that.
Sure. Where to start? Prior to Brapp, was working for some years as a guitarist.
Okay. Professionally?
Professionally. As a guitarist, I was very lucky. I got to travel a lot, play in a lot of different places with a lot of different kinds of musicians. And along the way, I ended up moving to Dubai from London.
Okay.
And that was where, I really felt the sort of the way the music industry really actually is only in a few places. For some reason, I always thought, the industry is globally like it is in London, and young cities like Dubai are the anomaly. But I soon realized that it's entirely the other way around. Outside of a few sort of key cities and places in the world, if you are a musician and, have some talent, it's very hard to reach people. It's very hard to get into, any particular scene. And that's sort of what got us started.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I remember when I was in college, we were in a band, and I like singing and playing the guitar as well, but you couldn't really see a future in music. There's no industry in Dubai. In fact, back then, there weren't even like bars and stuff that you could play at because, you need a permit to play music anywhere professionally in Dubai. And I remember just back then, like the scene had started opening up a little bit. There were a few bars that would let new, artists come on and play for a little bit, places like the Music Room and things like that. So it was kind of growing, but yeah, nothing at the scale of like any other city like London or New York.
And that's the
LA.
core thing.
Yeah.
Dubai isn't the anomaly. London, LA, New York, I guess Nashville and a handful of other places, but only a handful of other places are the anomaly. Yeah. There is almost everywhere else in the world is a lot more like here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, that's always been one of the biggest things. There is talent everywhere in the world, and not that many ways for them to break out and support it. I know lots of excellent artists from here. And basic example is my big brother in his group Foreign Beggars. Okay. When they were starting out, he's from here, but you needed to be in London and to do everything he could to be there so we could get on the scene, get playing at drum and bass events, and then onto other events and create the brand and the brand, start the label and all that stuff.
Right.
Things are definitely changing here, and there's more talent here today than there has ever been. And there is a lot more of a live scene, but there's still not an industry.
Yeah.
Not the same way. Not publishing companies.
Yeah.
Major record labels are interesting, but it's more about importing and monetizing external talent than supporting internal talent and taking it elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess you saw the need for a platform, right? To encourage more artists to put their stuff out there?
Yeah.
I mean, discovered?
I think with Brapp, it's really about that super early stage. It's not this solution that we're overcoming all the issues of the industry, but it is opening a new way for people to connect and collaborate, and that's important. And we've seen lots of people come on the app, connect with each other, record on each other's stuff, and you could see it in the comments like, "Yo, I love what you do. how can I send you tracks? What country are you in? Let's put out a record. And they go on to put a record out together and take a step in their careers. And that's a beautiful thing for us.
That's amazing, man. So how did the journey from musician to technology company happen? Like what happened over there? How was that experience?
I didn't have any gray before. Yeah, I'll say that. No, it's a beautiful thing. Learning curve. It's like a brick wall. It's not so much of a curve, but it's a beautiful thing to be learning. And I'm very lucky. When prior to this, I started focusing on technology. When I came back to Dubai, I was looking at ways to change the way distribution was. Mm-hmm. So. My family were all musicians. My oldest brother had put out a track with Skrillex. Okay. And I'd put out a track with this artist in London called Neeraj Chugg. And he writes this beautiful world music stuff. And he was in the iTunes world music charts in the UK. And I was excited. He's like, the track's out. It's there. I couldn't listen to it. I'm sitting here in Jumeirah where I record this stuff. And I'm like, I can't even listen to it. My big bro has put out a massive hit with Skrillex. Okay. And we're like, and he's in charts in the States, like the bigger charts. And I'm like, we can't even listen to the music that we write because there wasn't the distribution mechanisms at the time. This is some years ago. So I started focusing. I was like, hang on.
But now you'd be able to on like Spotify or something.
Yeah, Spotify's just come here. Apple Music is here, but their catalog is catching up and it's growing. But things have changed drastically. Now, obviously, the catalogs are becoming far more readily available in these places. Spotify's launched, Apple Music is here, so things are changing, which is great on the distribution thing. And that's at that time I started focusing on how do you change the licensing, and that was a problem. That is, you need huge infrastructure, you need Apple, Google style. Reach to be able to make those kind of changes, and they have been happening, which is a really great thing. But so after spending a few years in that, and I actually went to Cupertino and met the head of iTunes, which was frightening.
Oh, really?
as a sole ranger, as it were, to present this concept. I realized in that moment that if I'm going to make a positive change, it's not going to be a top-down change. It's going to be a bottom-up. So literally the next day, I flew back here to Dubai, and I was like, hang on, what can we do to break some of these barriers between people bottom-up? What can we do as a few dudes in a garage style with a handful of pocket money? And that's where Brapp came from.
Okay. So, as soon as you told me about it, I checked it out. I have a technology background myself. I was very impressed with the quality of the app. So you guys have done an excellent job. The user interface, it's easy to discover new people. The whole user experience of recording a song or recording on top of another song is inbuilt into the app, which I thought was very interesting. So it's not your basic app. It's some new tech that you guys had to build along the way. So do you have like a technology co-founder, or did you outsource it? Like, how did that happen?
Both. Okay. So the first thing, when started, beating up this core idea, when I came back, and it was, a lot of it came together very quickly. I was building another app at the time called the Making Music app that helps people who write music basically just get their ideas down very quickly. So there's a recording mechanism in an app with multiple layers. It's voice notes 2.0, what you'd want as a musician, just to be able to record on top and have some rhythms. And I was speaking to one of my brothers out here, Pritham. He taught me how to play guitar, and he was like, what about if you put this mechanism together with the ability to collaborate and so on, and change the licensing scenario so that people can collaborate with each other that don't know each other and so on. And this idea sort of just happened very quickly that night. One of those all-nighters where it all just sort of fell together. So it's just figuring out how it would all work. And then, the next day I went to see my oldest brother Pavan in London, and basically just put this whole thing on his desk, said like, let's do this.
Okay.
And he was like, yes. And he's in his group Foreign Beggars, but he also runs a publishing company and a record label and an artist management agency managing other artists. And he sort of brought the concept that he took that collaboration concept further. He was like, this is cool, but you don't want a bank of beats. You want anyone to be able to upload beats, because that's where it gets interesting. So we said, all right, let's just lock ourselves away for a minute and figure out how that would translate into an interface and a user experience and all that stuff. Because if it doesn't, it has to work legally, technically, and usability wise, and every other possible way.
I think the copyright thing is quite challenging, right? Because I mean, do you think you guys are like competing with something like SoundCloud, or do you think you're something else? Like, you're a collaborative music platform versus a distribution channel, correct? Or you're both?
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't say we're a distribution channel. The content that people create on here, it is distributed to their followers and so on. But you wouldn't call Instagram a distribution channel per se for music. It is
not for music, especially. Yeah, but you can reach a lot with Instagram.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just going to jump back to the previous question about the technology. Yeah. So you asked if there's a technical co-founder.
Yeah.
And yes, so Pavan was the first call. The second and third happened all together in that same week. It was, I spoke to a guy called Levent, an old friend. Mm-hmm. He was working at it's jumping out my brain for a moment. At a company called Log Me In.
Okay.
And they were building some really advanced IoT stuff, and he was doing really well. And I basically said, "Can I take you for a pizza?" Okay. And presented this idea. And I presented many ideas to him over the years with the previous project. And just because he's the technical brain, I'm not an engineer background at all. And he said, you know what, I'll come on this journey with you. I will, let's do this. This is a beautiful thing. So he came on board and we started mapping out the actual architecture of it. He built the entire cloud infrastructure, which everything is sort of built on. Yeah. And we brought in outsourced guys to do the iOS app and the recording components and the code, and we'll come to that stuff. And the other guy is a guy from here, Rad Haider.
Okay.
He's very sneakily a wonderful musician, but he's quiet about it. But he's an incredible designer, and I'd worked with him before.
Right.
And I was just like, I called him. I said, "Hey, can I show you this thing?" and he was just like, "This is cool." And there was four of us, and we said, "Let's get to it."
Yeah, definitely cool. And you guys did an excellent job.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an adventure.
So yeah, there's some tricky elements to your technology, right? You have cloud infrastructure. So everything that's recorded gets uploaded up to the cloud. Can you share details about what kind of cloud? Are you guys using like AWS or?
Yeah. We're using AWS and Heroku and generally Amazon, a lot of Amazon's infrastructure, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then there's various other components, the way the search system is built, the way that the algorithm for the home feed is built, because there's reposting, but you can't repost your own stuff. You can't keep reposting other stuff within certain time frames, and the way that the charts feeds works and stuff. But more than the sort of database side of it, there's the recording mechanism, which is really complex.
Okay.
So when somebody uploads a beat to Brapp, people upload beats either via the app or the website, and they might, and there's a number of different formats in which audio formats in which people can do it. So we compress that so it's all the same. We adjust that. And we give them the ability to choose the start and end points because it's only up to a minute long.
Okay.
So they could choose exactly what part of the thing that they want people to record on to check out and stuff. And then when it comes to recording the videos, there's multiple layers because you need to hear the beat in real time and be performing on top, but you're recording audio and video. And then after...
There's a synchronization issue, right?
Yeah, and that's complicated because you have software and hardware driven parts in there.
Yeah.
And you have to, and it works per device and so on. Lucky we got excellent engineers that we worked with for a long time before we built, the home feed and a lot of the UI stuff.
Yeah.
Our first piece was like with all the money that we could get together. Let's see, can we find a way to draw this up legally so that it can work for people, and can we prove the technology works? So before we built everything else, we built that recording mechanism. So you adjust that audio latency, video latency, and stitch it all together.
Yeah.
And then you can adjust delays, reverbs, EQs and stuff on the recorded channel and get your mix with the beat.
Oh, I didn't even see that. You can do EQ on it post-recording?
Post-recording, because you've got to make sure you sound good and also that you look good. So there's video filters in there and share it out. And for the user, we expect Instagram, Snapchat style fluidity in the interface, the functionality, and we wanted to keep it that simple.
Yeah, I think you've achieved it. So for you guys who are listening at home, if you look at Brapp, it kind of looks like Instagram when you open it up, and there's like videos of people singing mostly, or playing the guitar, or playing an instrument.
I think mostly rapping.
Rapping, yeah. A lot of them are rapping, and they're playing over beats. Right?
That's correct.
So those components are stitched together. So somebody finds a beat that they like, which looks like an audio waveform. They click on it. They say, I want to record a video. They listen to the beat and they rap over it or they play over it. And that's how it works. And it's so if you think about it, it's kind of like a mix between Instagram and TikTok, maybe a little bit. And and it all works very fluidly and very nice. So good job, guys. So have you seen any major collaborations come out of this?
Major is in...
Like, have you seen anything getting published or getting popular?
We've seen lots of artists that have connected on here and put records out together.
Okay.
And it's very cool. There was one producer... I haven't met him, but we've connected a bit. His name is LRD.
Okay.
He's put up hundreds of beats, hundreds of productions, and he's put out tracks with at least 10, 15 artists he's found on Brapp.
Oh, wow.
And just been and done albums and mixtapes and all kinds of stuff with them, which is really cool.
Yeah. So how did you guys navigate this legal issue that you had of copyright and things like that? How does the copyright work on Brapp?
Yeah, it's actually quite simple. So before jumping in, it did like a deep dive on the sort of legal setup of YouTube and Instagram and SoundCloud and so on, and I just wanted to make it very simple and very plain English, and it works like this: if you upload your beat, you have to upload your own productions, your own copyright to Brapp, and by doing so, you grant anyone else, anywhere else in the world, a license to use the Brapp app to record on top.
Okay.
And because it's this short form, one minute video content that's created, it's not stuff that people are going to, you're not going to release that onto Spotify and so on, or try to do anything on your own. The copyright in the video is technically owned part by the producer and part by the artist who recorded on top, and it all stays within the platform. And Brapp holds no copyright, and that's a really important thing that some platforms try to sneak their way into, if you put it here, we can do this, we can do that. We absolutely, I mean, we're artists, so we built it with that in mind.
Yeah. So even you guys can't use a Brapp video to promote your own app
We could use it for the promotion
of Brapp.
of the platform and to demonstrate how it works, but
Okay.
we can't monetize that, and that's
Okay.
really important. And the main thing about Brapp is about people connecting and then taking their things further. So you see people say like, drop me an email and then come to my studio, and then we'll take it up a notch, because the stuff you create in Brapp, it sounds great, it looks great, but it's not
Studio quality.
and it's not supposed to be. The whole
Yeah.
point is it's about like, yo, I got an idea, I'm gonna jam this out. You know, you're doing it with your iPhone headphones.
Yeah. All right, cool. So since you guys don't own copyrights to any of the songs or anything like that, how do you guys plan to monetize the platform, or is there any plan for monetization at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's two sides to Brapp. One is the app and the platform. We plan to monetize that a bit later on with a few new features with the Messenger and other pieces that are coming along.
So like a Brapp Pro or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what we won't do, we sort of created strict guidelines for that piece that we're building later on, in that we won't monetize anything that creates a barrier to collaboration and creation. So
Okay.
we won't add nicer filters that people would have to pay for, because at the end of the day, we want them to create the best stuff they can. So whatever we can build that can help them create stuff, we'll do that. We don't put those barriers there, but stuff that, as we create, I don't want to talk too much about the future developments, but stuff that can help them professionally
Okay.
outside of the actual creation parts of the app, we can monetize that.
Okay.
And we've got a nice roadmap for that. But the other much larger piece that focused on monetization is the other, like we sort of, Brapp is two things. It's Brapp the platform and Brapp Records.
Okay.
And we haven't touched on that so much, but it's basically what we've done with Brapp is now create a platform that's highlighting talent all over the world.
Right.
We've seen users in over 100 and something countries come on without any marketing. We haven't told anyone. We gave it to a few artists in London and saw how it worked, and and it's just naturally grown, which is really nice. And music has this beautiful ability to do that.
Yeah.
And our thing is, we have access to so much talent from around the world that we did a little step early on, and we plan to really scale it up with Brapp Records. We start producing content with these amazing artists. We did some beat tapes with a bunch of the producers we found, and we released, and we started shooting one take videos with a lot of the artists.
Brilliant. So it's a way for you to discover new talent for your record production.
Exactly. And, and what that does is, when we find someone, we'll produce a video with them or something and put it out there. And it's really cool because it's just, it creates this reach for them. It creates reach for us.
Yeah.
And as we keep doing it, we're building a larger platform to support artists from further and further places, which is really exciting.
Awesome. So speaking of traction, so how's it been going so far? Like, how many users do you have? Can you talk about that stuff? Like,
yeah, we could touch on it a bit. Yeah.
All right, sure. So
So as I said, we haven't marketed anything. Our core focus is all about, at this stage in this early run, is to basically build the core platform to prove that it works and it's useful for people. And as I said, we started by giving it to 5-10 artists in London, young artists, and start pushing it that way. Obviously, I told a few friends here to try it out and see how it is. Now we have over 40,000 users in over 100 something countries, and it's cool. It's cool.
That's awesome.
I'm seeing rappers come out of Taiwan and singers, in Nigeria, and beat makers from all over. Actually, there was so my oldest brother, with his group Foreign Beggars, in their last album, they did a thing where they put out a message on their Facebook saying, "Put your beats on Brapp this weekend, and we want to find new producers for our next record."
Okay.
And it was cool because we're all connected and stuff. And they had about 700 beat makers come through in a couple of days from all over the world. And and they did a Facebook Live listening session, and they were just listening to beats, and it was really cool, watching it, because it's just like, it's wonderful because we don't know who these artists are, we don't know who these producers are.
Yeah.
And they're in London at their studio, and Bob played this one beat, and he was like, "This kid Bangsy is amazing." It's like, "I want this guy on the record." So they, he hit him up in the comments, said, "Yo, where are you? Like, let's get in touch." With this dude, 19 years old, in Sharjah, of all places. I kid you not.
Nice.
He's like, "I'm in a place called Sharjah. Have you heard of it?" It's like, "Bro, I'm from Dubai. I know where you are." Yeah. So a couple of weeks later, he was here. We connected with him. This guy has produced so many beats, so much incredible music. It's so exciting. He produced the entire Last Beggars album, including their single with Rag and Bone Man.
Oh, really?
And a whole lot of other artists. And it's just like, and since then, Pavan's been managing him and helping him get started with a whole bunch of other releases. And it was just like, as much as that was internal, that was like a self-high-five moment, because that's it. I was that 19-year-old kid in Jumeirah. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And, and it's really cool.
That is really cool, man. So how many out of the 40,000 that you got, it's all word of mouth, which is brilliant. How many do you think are active users? Do you see a lot of traction on your platform? And if you do, how do you manage to pay for it all?
Yeah, it's so what we did. I mean, so in a month, it's fluctuating between the activity between 5 and 15% active users.
Okay.
Monthly, and what we did at the beginning is, well, first we did our funds to prove the platform until launch, and then we did a friends and family round.
Okay.
And just keep things. As I said, we don't spend on acquisition.
Right.
What we've really focused on is showing that it works, and understanding the data to build our roadmap.
Yeah.
So seeing the things that are working, seeing the things that are not, build, test, throw it out the window, retest, find some new stuff. And what we've done now is built this extensive roadmap. And it's actually only a handful of key features that we want to build, but they're kind of bigger pieces. And then all the other stuff, the sort of roadmap on the Brapp Records side.
Yeah.
And basically just created this plan.
So are you guys looking to raise funds?
Yeah, that's the next step. So I'm in talks with a handful of people.
Okay, cool. So it's going to be a seed round.
Yeah,
that you're raising. Okay,
it's interesting. So because I speak to people in the States, people in the UK and Europe, and even to some Asian investors and some people out here and some family offices, the word seed and Series A and stuff, it all means very different things to different people.
Sure,
but I mean, I'll consider it seed.
Yeah, I mean, if it's your first round of funding, it should be a seed fund.
Yeah,
seed round. Yeah,
yeah. So friends and family could be pre-seed.
Yeah, pre-seed.
It's all just names. We want to build a business.
Do you guys know how much you want to raise?
Yeah, between £2 and £5 million to put the teams together.
Yeah, I think that's a good number, man. I mean, you need that much if you want to grow any kind of social platform.
Not just that, and it really is about, you talked about our technology and the strength behind it.
Yeah.
Between us now, we have a lot of experience in this space. We want A-list coders and engineers and data scientists. And even on the production side, you can do a lot with a little today.
Yeah.
But it's all about bums on seats. You need, and I say this about my co-founders, about our gang of investors so far, and everyone else. You want to have smarter people around you.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I do. I have, and I plan to.
Okay.
All the way along the line.
Awesome. So you guys right now are iOS only, right?
Yes.
And so you decided not to go for Android right now. Was there a thought process behind that? Was it like an MVP thing? What was the idea over there?
Well, actually, there was multiple reasons. One is MVP. In that when we started, we're like, we've got X amount of funds, and we need to prove that this can work and be useful. So it definitely made sense to focus on one platform, not two, because a lot of the audio and video code is complex. So you don't want to spend that much twice and
Right.
without knowing that yes, this is cool and this works, and and it's actually useful for people. The other side, why we chose iOS over Android at the time, was to do with Android's audio capabilities.
Okay. Technical reasons.
Yeah. So iOS was built basically off the OS X framework, which has always been very advanced with audio capabilities.
Core audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Android wasn't built like that in the lowest levels of the operating system. But it's in the more recent years, iOS was here and Android was here, but Android caught up so very quickly over these years.
Yeah.
That now, but even today, it's mostly the newer handsets and the newer operating systems that could handle this kind of a platform working.
Yeah, Android's kind of always had that issue, which is fragmentation of user base. Like if you see how many Android phones out there, it's a huge number. But when you see how many of them are the latest device or with running the latest operating system and can handle all the features of your app, it starts getting pretty small pretty quick. So I understand what you're talking about. Do you think there are more musicians on iOS than there are on Android?
There are more musicians maybe in a handful of countries, and I feel like that is an assumption. That's a reasonable assumption because most of the music that we hear about comes out of, a handful of countries, the UK and France and the US and Canada and so on. And these are really big iOS markets. But, you're Indian?
Yeah.
Go walk along the streets in Bombay and ask people how many people sing.
Yeah,
I think maybe 1 out of 100 will say no, I don't sing. And I mean that's an extreme example, I know, but it's just misrepresented. There is so much talent everywhere in the world, and a lot of people just don't even consider it as an option in their life because of the realities of where they live,
right,
and circumstances. But I would say no, because there are 9+ Android phones compared to every one iOS phone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think the music industry is changing a lot. Like you see a lot of YouTube artists these days coming out and becoming huge. I think Justin Bieber started that way, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So really interesting thing I wanted to talk to you about is the introduction of social media and how it's changed music or the music industry. So very recently I read the story about Lil Nash X, if I'm remembering correctly. So he made the song Old Town Road, and he actually spoke about it later. So it was a super viral hit. It was one of those songs that was playing all over Instagram. People were doing like funny videos with it. They were doing memes with it, and it's like this country western rap song, and it's got a really nice beat, very catchy. And but what he did was he actually introduced it as a meme on Reddit consciously. Like he would spend hours and hours creating these funny videos with his music at the back of it, and then putting them out as memes on Reddit and Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. And eventually it actually caught on, and like people started using his song in memes. And then eventually the song went super viral. And then Billy Ray Cyrus, who's a very famous country musician, approached him and said, "Oh, this sounds cool. Like, let's do a cover together." And now he's like a huge musician in the U.S. But what do you think of that whole idea about how musicians are now using social media and like different ways to like promote their music and things like that?
Yeah, big topic. I think social media has changed everything. You know, it's changed politics, it's changed business, it's changed fashion, it's changed, you know, pretty much everything. And in music, you know, it's a tool, and you know, and it's a way of reaching people. In, you know, this story, I've just heard of it now, but if you, I mean, that's gaming success.
Yeah.
That was gaming the internet for success, and you know what, and that works, and it works. I mean, that his goal was to get more listeners, get up the charts, and become a success.
Yeah.
You know, nothing to do with the music itself. He played the game to win, and he won.
Yeah.
You know, and there are, you know, and that, you know, or, you know, hats off to that. I mean, totally separate from the music. I mean, there's so many wonderful, incredible musicians around the world today that either, you know, don't do any of this stuff, don't put any attention to social media and so on. And the game has changed, you know, sad, for better or worse, it's changed.
So my question to you as a professional musician is, do you think it's required now, like, to be a famous artist or a musician? Do you think you need to know the social media game? I mean, like every famous artist in recent times, like Post Malone or, you know, any of these guys, they heavily leverage social media for their popularity and their music, and I mean that's how they come up the charts, right?
Honestly, unless you happen to have huge backing and teams that are doing it for you, if you're not front and center at social media, you cease to exist in your fans' minds, because today we're more connected than ever before, you know, and just through our devices, you put something on Instagram or Twitter and stuff, and your fans, the people that care about you, that make you a success, can engage.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you don't do that, they're engaging with somebody else.
Yeah. All right, man. I think we're going to wrap up this interview. Super interesting to hear about your story of Brapp. All the best.
Thank you. Thanks for
I'm
having
sure
me.
you guys are going to do amazing stuff with it. It already looks brilliant, and I can't wait to see the new features. And hopefully you guys are launching on Android soon as well.
It's in the pipeline. No specific dates.
All right, guys. If you guys want to check it out, you can. I'll leave a link in the description. You can go click on it. It's available on iOS and hopefully in the future on Android. And you can check out the website as well. They have a web version where you can see what it looks like. Do you have any advice for founders looking to, you know, start their own company? What would you advise? Or thinking of starting an app like this?
Yeah. Wait. How long have I got? That's a big question.
Take your time, man.
Honestly, I mean, there's a few things. You know, be clear with the vision, because you need to. I will say because it's a roller coaster where you're excited and you're frightened in huge proportions at the same time, all the time. You know, I would say one thing: check out the videos at startupschool.org. That's a course that was set up by Y Combinator.
Yeah,
and
I've seen it.
And those videos are open, and there's invaluable information there about how to set up a company, how to do things like vesting shares to make sure you protect the company and protect all the people involved. You're not just
Super
your
important.
investors, but also your co-founders and stuff, because at the end of the day, it's all led by people.
Yeah.
I would say,
So just to clarify, what vesting shares are basically when you have a couple of co-founders in your company, and you know, sometimes some of them might leave, or maybe they'll work with you for 6 months and then they'll be gone. And if they own a significant share of your company, then you're kind of stuck. So vesting means that they'll earn equity over time. right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you lessen the risk of having a non-performing co-founder or a non-interested co-founder owning a large chunk of your company.
Exactly. And circumstances always change. You might start a company with someone, and then, a year into either, you might not be around, they might not be around, they might, have a few kids suddenly and need to focus on other things. But it's not good for yourself or your investors, or creates a layer of protection for them if someone owns 50% and they're not involved anymore. So you really want to, and the same is if you need to leave for your own personal reasons, you don't want to be a drag on the success of the company. For whoever does take the reins. So that's a really important thing. For me, I think the biggest thing, particularly if you're in a B2C scenario and something exciting like music, in the music space, in the app space, like Brapp is, we have 20 or so investors and the 3 co-founders and a handful of really good advisors. It just means you have 30 smart people, 30 very smart people, very sharp, with very differing experiences on this one ship with you. And the main thing is to keep everyone focused on the going in the same direction, because obviously something exciting like Brapp, there's a million features you could add, there's a million promotions you could run, there's so many different directions you can take it. It's really about being very clear as to where you're going and be willing to constantly learn how to get there.
Yeah,
because it's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's very tempting to add a bunch of features to your. It's exciting, right? Like, oh, I'm going to add this feature and that feature, but it can be cost intensive. And
I'd actually say one more thing: be very in tune with your users, both on the data side and on the sort of more human side, where just speak to them.
Right.
Speak to them all the time. See everything that comes through support and document it, so you can actually see what they're feeling. Because even though I'm an artist, and so I'm working on both sides of the fence, how they actually use it in their context is what's important, not how you envision that they'd want to.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Before you leave, I have to make you play for our listeners, because he is a very talented professional musician. So can you play something for our listeners?
Sure.
All right, cool. So we're going to set that up. 1 second. All right, man. Thank you for that brilliant performance. Guys, if you want to check out Niki, I'll leave links to his Instagram as well. You can go check out, he plays on Instagram and you can listen to him over there. We leave links for Brapp as well. You can go check out the app. We're available on all the podcast platforms. So we are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, we're available there. If you want to leave us a voice note, we actually use Anchor to publish this podcast. So you can actually go on Anchor, leave us a voice note, and we'll try to include it in one of the future episodes. We also did a video version of this podcast on YouTube, so you can go check us out on YouTube if you like. and actually see Niki perform this song on his guitar. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe so you can watch more videos like this one. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Keep on hustling.